Welcome to a brand new episode of Getting to the Truth in This Art. I'm Rob Lee, and today I have a guest with me. I'm going to go with your name, and I'm going to go with the alias. I'm going to go with the whole thing. I have SJ, aka Johnny Gash, here, and you're a multi-talented artist, local to Baltimore. Which part of Baltimore are you in?
Well, I grew up originally in Northwood. And then I moved to Towson for school as a young kid. And then I moved back to the city once I got my own place when I was like 20 or something. But I've lived in Baltimore my whole life. And I briefly lived in Savannah, Georgia for like a year and a half. But other than that, it's been Baltimore City all the way.
That's pretty cool. I like to hear that. I like to see different, interesting, like people who are in and around Baltimore. That's ultimately the goal of this show, to kind of show the different personality types and the different people who live in and around here. And what caught my attention was your profile, and I saw the Tiger King presentation. I was just like, okay, I need to become friends. I need to make new friends.
Yeah, the Tiger King look was really fun. Obviously, I don't support anything that guy does or did, but obviously it was very much like a pop culture phenomenon with him coming out in the quarantine times and everyone just like getting obsessed with the show and this like wild character. And he just has such a distinct look. And I already had the haircut. And because a bunch of people put out memes like, oh, these are all the people, like everyone that looks like Joe Exotic used to hang out at the Ottobar or like 2 for Tuesdays or went to Micah or something like that. There was like all these jokes, which is like really funny because I never went to Micah and I only really, well, I mean, I used to go to the Ottobar too, but I used to work there too. But I was like, I already have the haircut. I might as well go for it. And then I thought about it. I was like, I have a fur coat. I got everything I need. I'm just going to do this.
I dig it. And so I've had that before. I just didn't have like the gumption to go all the way because I kind of have a beard very similar to it's an anime character, Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop. And I was like, do I want to shave my head and just go with these mutton chops and just make it happen? I was like, nah, not quite there yet. Not quite there yet. Haven't been able to really commit to it, but I think coming soon. Yeah,
it's always an option.
Yeah. Yes. So let's talk about your creative background a little bit. Like, give me not in an elevator pitch kind of way, but just give me like you, like who are you creatively?
So that is a hard question, sir. Let's see. Well, I think for me, my exploration of art started when I was very young. I was very lucky that while my immediate family and my parents and stuff weren't particularly artistic, I was very lucky that my paternal grandmother was an artist. And she was a painter. She was never, successful or anything. She was a stay-at-home mom when she raised my dad and his siblings in the 70s. And, but she always maintained her art. Like she did art every single day. And she did every kind of art. She did watercolors. She did acrylics, oils. She even at one point got into photography and collage. And then she bought a kiln and was doing clay work. And like she rented a little studio at the Mill Center in Hamden to put the kiln. And she used to bring me there with her. And I didn't have a great home life. So my little trips with her to her studio in the Mill Center were, very special to me and really nourished my desire to just create and explore in every medium. I never really felt limited by, a medium or even a format, and like, I know when you ask like, well, what kind of art do you do? I had to like think because, I just try to make stuff all the time. And I don't always even think about it as art. But then when someone says, oh, well, what art have you made? I was like, well, I guess I did do some portraits and then I did do an acrylic painting and I guess I made some t-shirts and I was in a band and, so it's like, all that is technically art. So I suppose I am, after all, an artist.
Yeah, I get very, and thank you for sharing that. I get very, I guess, protective of it. Like just the idea, like, as I said early on, like I've been doing this podcast thing and I take it in that perspective of trying to do something that's unique, trying to do something that's creative and something that I am confident I can say, this is my art. This is the thing that kind of drives me. And I see other people having their point of view around it and their approach, and they say that, oh, we're doing the same thing. I'm like, no, we're not. We're not at all.
Yeah.
So what would you...
Well, I think that's a really important distinction, is the difference between the product and the process, which all artists should think about, I think. And that's helped me a lot as an artist, is like, and like me and you could do the same painting, right?
Sure.
And it could look similar, but our process could be so different, and like it could have taken me an hour and it could have taken you days, or something like that. And it could have been, even if the end product is similar, I feel like everyone's process is so different. And I'm definitely I try to focus on the process more than the product.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I dig that. Like, instead of, I think I read this Basquiat book a couple months back, and I just kind of remember this, obviously with, the drug stuff and all of that, where the quality of his work started kind of going away, but it was like he was using to get the product out there, not really doing his process, not doing his thing. He had this illusion that he was doing his thing, but really he was feeding his habit, and he was just putting out stuff, and it turns less from like art and this natural thing that you're putting energy and pieces of yourself into more of a, I need to pay something. I need to pay this bill. So let me get this out there. You're like, somebody's giving me money.
Well, now you're getting down to the brass tacks, which is the problem. The fatal flaw in being an artist is fucking capitalism. Well, you cannot it's so hard to be a real artist and have to exist in capitalism, like how can you like being forced to monetize your art and like create to live and make a product to sell is so challenging, and still to stay true to like what you want to do and what you want to create. And like you said, he was this amazing, talented creator. And yet towards the end of his career, he was under so much pressure to produce, whether or not it was quality. And he felt, and I'm sure so many artists go through that. I know that when I first started my cocktail business, like, during quarantine, I was like, I just have to get this out. I have to, try to, figure out a way to make ends meet if I'm not working, and it started out of a need, and then it became, something that was really rewarding and really, another aspect of my creative process that I hadn't really examined in that way before. And, so it did end up being, a good thing, but I've definitely seen it go the other way, where people are just really killing themselves trying to put out product to pay bills, and they're just either not happy with the product and then they're happy, or, they don't put it out and then their fans get mad, or they do put it out and then the fans don't like it. It's like, it's hard.
Yes. I remember I used to get really attached to and putting something out like this. Like, I did the whole stuff, tried to go through the whole school of the arts. I was a comic book artist and a writer and all of that different stuff. And I always kind of felt like this is my next thing that I'm going to do. And I could always return back to one of these other things, and kind of doing a lot of different like creative kind of like areas, creative disciplines, what have you, and just doing them, not doing them for any purpose. And I found that when this became kind of the area I wanted to focus a lot of my attention at, and I started doing things that you start having people involved that really don't know what you're doing, but they say, oh, you can put a dollar amount on that. And it muddies it. It makes it ugly. It makes it a mess. And I remember around, I want to say like 2015, like around like the unrest and all of that different stuff here, I was dealing with a couple of different dudes who they thought they knew my product better than I did. And I partnered with them because it was a great opportunity for me to learn a few different things. And they were kind of assholes, but I was just like, all right, I'm gonna suck this one up.
Or whatever.
Yeah, right. And one of the things that my boy put me on to, my co-host, he was just like a lot of vague racial jokes or what have you that are kind of sticking out. I'm like, I'm kind of sacrificing things that, this isn't really congruent to my values. And it was getting stupider, right? By the moment. And I think the biggest thing that hit me was, it was a lot of shit to say. They had a lot of shit to say about Baltimore because they weren't local. And that was the thing. I was just like, all right. I was like, yeah, we got issues here. And I just I just kind of hit myself. I was like, I'm better than you, dude. I know all of this stuff, and just started going through it and just having trust in my product, what I do, because the reason I connected with this guy was he said he could solve some of my problems I had creatively and kind of get me out of this rut I was in. And it was kind of like this fake, it wasn't really abusive, but it was kind of like, you're overstepping. And I think once I got to a place where I was more confident in what I'm doing and just kind of like, whatever, I know what I'm doing, that I was better. I was better, I think.
It's all about confidence. If there's one thing I have learned, it's just like, you got to be confident in yourself. And even if like, you're like, that's why it's so good for me to like be more about the process, because if I focus too much on the product, that's when I'll start like kind of breaking myself down. Be like, well, you could have done it better this way. Well, what if you had done it? I wish you had thought of that, all those kind of second guessing things. And like when you just focus on enjoying the process, and then when it's made, you just let it go. And you're just like, it's made, I let it go into the world, and this is it. And it's not perfect. And it, maybe it wasn't what I initially set out to make, but here it is. And hopefully someone will like it.
So when you're producing anything, because you're producing a lot of distinct things, and that's really good. With that, do you collaborate with anyone? Are you working with other parties to kind of put forth your creative?
Oh, absolutely. Collaboration is crucial, in my opinion. Other people just have always helped elevate my vision. And I have a lot of other artist friends that I lean on for feedback. One of them is one of my closest friends. She's a singer-songwriter named Josephine Olivia. She has a couple of bands and a couple of solo projects, Airtex with her partner, and Bosch, I believe, is her solo project, and she's a very talented singer and musician. And we lean on each other a lot. When she was picking out photos for her album cover, she sent me a couple options and, asked me which one I thought I liked best and why. And I told her, and she ended up picking that one, and it's like, we help each other out a lot with artistic stuff. And she's been really great about, giving me good feedback and constructive feedback. And, because you don't want someone who's just going to be like a yes man, you don't want someone just like, oh, you're great. You're great. You're great. You're great. You want someone to be able to be like, this is great, but what about this, And, with, I think I just sent you some of those t-shirts that I designed. And, the Dolly Parton one is just, Photoshop, but the Rihanna metal shirt, I actually drew by hand with like a white fabric paint marker on black canvas and then scanned it. And then Scott Archer, who runs Black Collar Screen Printing, which is a small independently run screen printing business in Charles Village. I guess it's closer to Mount Vernon. He printed all the shirts for me. He also printed all the band shirts that we did for my old goth band, koev, halev. And, obviously a band is very collaborative. I entered that band having never been in a band before and never having played drums. And I just basically learned the drums to play in this band because I had always wanted to be in a goth band. I loved The Cure when I was a kid and Susie and the Banshees and all that stuff, and I still do. And it was like kind of, along those lines. And it was really fun. It was a great experience. I got to fulfill a lot of, life goals of, performing I got to play at Metro Gallery, where I also work as a bartender. And I've always wanted to play on that stage. It's my favorite venue in the whole city. I know I'm biased because I work there, but the owner, Sarah, she's one of the best bosses I've ever had in my life. Like I actually consider her more of a friend than a boss, to be honest. It's a very communal workspace. It's a very small staff. We all help each other. I helped them build their cocktail program there. and that's where I've seen some of the best shows in my life as a bartender, like work bartending some of like the craziest bands, like, and now of course I can't think of any of them, but like, I saw like Satine, which is like a small, 2-person group that's a trans woman and her partner, and they are just this amazing, beautiful duo. And the show there was like so insane. They had like everyone do like a walk, like a runway walk, and they like picked out everyone that had the craziest outfits, and like everyone got to strut their stuff, and it was just this like really empowering, loving environment. It's just like, and Metro Gallery also just is so diverse as far as the type of music. They have rap and hip hop shows, they have goth shows, they have heavy metal, punk, drag shows, pop music, dance parties, and everything in between. So it's like, I just really love that about it. And I think the sound is great, and it's a great room. And, it's definitely being around all of those artists and musicians all the time, even just working as a bartender, because it also functions as an art gallery. And they're always, every month they rotate the artists. So I get to see a different art show every month. I miss working there so much. I only work there one day a week because I used to do tree work, regularly during the week. And then Friday nights I would still bartend there because I couldn't give it up. I loved it. And, I get to see a different show every Friday night, and like a new artist on the walls every month, and meet new people and talk to other artists and musicians. And, I try to glean as much from everyone that I meet as possible. Even with my cocktails, there's a lot of out of work bartenders right now, and they're all sitting at home making stuff. Like my friend Emily, who worked at Golden West for years, and Ida B's Table and Rituals. She did this homemade Amaro that was like amazing. That had like mint and gentian and like angelica and like all these wild flavors. And she sent me a sample, and I made a couple really good cocktails with it. So I'm gonna use her Amaro in like my cocktails in the future. And then my friend Gerard, who's a bartender at like Golden West and Ottobar and all these other places, he's making syrups. So like I bought some of his syrups to use in my cocktails, so it's like, I want to include as many people as I can. Like basically anybody that wants to collaborate with me, I'm always open to it. I'm open to everybody's ideas. And I always feel, even if I don't end up using it, or even if I don't like it, you still learn something from it, because you're like, okay, now I know I don't like that.
Right. I dig that. Like, I think so. Within, in your experience within like Baltimore, do you think that the art scene is a little cliquish, or is it kind of open to collaboration? Because every person I've done, this is the, I think, 15th or 16th episode of this podcast, they've all had varying answers. Now, granted, they kind of do different things or what have you. So I just want to get your take on that. Do you think it's like people are open to that collaboration, generally speaking, or is it kind of like someone and then you connect with somebody and so on, you travel in similar circles, or how do you think collaboration really works in and around Baltimore?
So I agree with you that it really depends on what you're doing. And as far as my perspective, I'm very much on the kind of underground side of things. Like I don't know anything about like fine art or like fancy galleries, or like I went to art school for exactly one semester and I did get straight A's, but I did not go back because I could not, unfortunately, get any more student loans. But I had one glorious semester at art school, but outside of that, I don't really know anything about fine art or, anyone who makes more than probably, $70,000 a year. So, my expertise as far as that kind of stuff is not exactly up to date. But I will say that in my experience, at least in the community that I travel in these days, which is the queer community in Baltimore, that is very involved with music and art. And they are very much open to collaboration. In fact, I've, since I, kind of moved away from the like more hetero culture and scene and more into the queer scene, I felt much more, accepted, and people much less cliquish in the queer scene. It's much more kind of open and fluid, even if you will, pun intended, about, it's just, I think something kind of happens in a lot of like perceived, heteronormativity about how groups can kind of get together, like when you're in a hetero couple, it's like, oh, you hang out with other couples and you talk to other couples, and like maybe you have like one single friend and they're sad and you take them with you or whatever. But like when you're like a free agent in the queer community, it's like, and even if you're in a couple, like the couples are just like so much more like, oh yeah, and maybe some of them are poly, maybe they're not, who knows? But it's just a very, much more just accepting, open, like loving kind of situation in my experience. And I've just had endless people want to work with me and help me with doing what I'm doing. And like so much support when I like posted on Instagram that, I was struggling with my finances due to COVID and my unemployment was, not coming through and all this stuff. And people just like stepped up and started buying stuff from me. They're like, okay, I'll take a portrait. I'll take a drink. I'll take I bake bread too. And I cook and stuff. They're like, oh, I'll take 3 loaves of bread. And it was awesome. I felt so safe. And I felt so like, it's like, oh, they saw a need and they were like, okay, well, I got my unemployment, so I'll buy something from you, and, it was just really great. And I felt really supportive. And then on top of that, other people messaging me, Emily messaged me about her Amaro, but I just like happened to see that Gerard was making syrups, and I hit him up and I said, could I try some of those in my cocktails? And he was like, of course. And, there's some other people, my friend Eileen, who's from Brazil, and she is an herbalist, and she also works at Hex Ferments, which is an amazing stall in Belvedere Square. They're still operating because I think they're doing like carry out, but they make all these amazing like kimchis and sauerkrauts and different types of fermented foods with all sorts of like different herbal kind of additives for different things. And then she's also like an herbalist on the side. She just graduated from an herbalism program, and she gives me all of my herbs that I work with, and in exchange for other things. Like that's the other thing is like, since all this stuff, I've been doing a lot of bartering and trading with other artists for goods and services, and it has been radical. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like I literally went to her house and cut down 3 trees in her yard for free, and then she's like, okay, here's all the herbs you could ever want forever. And I was like, thank you.
I think that was something that we talked about a little bit. I think like when you find your group, and it's like, it may not be like the group that you're associated with at a particular moment may not be the group you're supposed to be with. Like I can travel in multiple circles. I get along with multiple people, different types of people, whatever.
I'm the same way.
And it's Aquarius, and I think once I kind of found the improv community, like I record on Fridays across the street, like at the Baltimore Improv Group. So I didn't know you were at the Metro Gallery, but
funny.
Once I went there and we did our 10th anniversary show there. I think I sent you the video of it, and it was like a culmination of me doing this for X amount of years, and it was like one of the greatest moments for me. And I was an asshole up into it because I was just like, I had the nerves around and I wanted to produce good stuff, and I was not really focused on the product. I mean, I was focused more on the product than the process because I felt that the process was good and where it was going to be at. And then I was like, all right, I need to try to control this product because, people bought tickets and all of that. And at a point, I just let it go. And I felt like I put on a good show, and I was like, it's out of my hands now. And it was just a really good experience. And just being in that kind of improv community and being around people who are from various walks of life, various backgrounds, a lot of people from not even from Baltimore, just different places. And, they think I'm an improv person. And it's like, oh no, you're the guy that's always in a podcast studio. I was like, oh yeah, Rob, and just kind of being there and seeing what they're into and kind of getting like passive notes of like, oh, well, do you guys go over any of this stuff before you record? I was like, very little. Everything is just off the top of the dome. And they were like, wow, why don't you do improv? Yeah. I was like, I'm intimidated. I can't do improv. I can't do it, And I think when we get back to some degree of normalcy, maybe there will be something I kind of just spread my wings and try. And
I think you should.
Probably, I think. So it takes me to my next question. because these are all questions I've been drinking, just so you know. And these are all questions that I didn't even write down. So this question here, risks.
I'm having a beer currently, so don't feel weird.
I think I'm drinking an old fashioned I got from Dutch Courage, and it's a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be. And the guy told me it was strong. I'm hearing his voice in my head right now. It's like, it's really strong. Just so you know. So
nice.
Risk. What do you say? What would you say one of your biggest risks as a creative has been? Like putting yourself out there, like due to like the COVID stuff, that can be a little risky, but or what have you. But what would you say is one of the biggest risks that come to mind when you think about creating and putting something out there for maybe just someone to consume? Because I think part of art is consumption, no?
Absolutely. Even if you take money out of the equation, we are a social animal. We care what other people think about us, whether we admit it or not. It's in our nature. It's how we survive. We have to care what others think because we use others to, understand what's going on around us. Ideally, for me, my only goal ever when I create something is to make someone feel something. And I don't care if it's hate, if they hate it. Like if I painted a really hideous, terrifying painting and like one person was like, oh my God, that's hideous, I can't look at it. I'd be like, I succeeded. I'd be like, this person was so affected by my work that they couldn't look at it, that is the, kind of what I worry about. But as far as the risk, the biggest risk I have to say, obviously COVID is dangerous and I've been quarantined at my house and I only go out to make, deliveries of things I sell to people. And I drop it on their porch and then text them that it's there and there's no contact and there's, and I sanitize and mask and all that stuff. But, you still have to go to the grocery store and, with the kind of stuff that I need to shop for, I can't really order online or have people, I need to go pick out my produce. I need to go smell my fruit, I can't have, I'm not going to order my fruit from Amazon warehouse. I go, and I try to support, I go to, the Asian grocery stores because they have much better like produce and stuff. And they've been handling this shit way better, like from the even before there was anything here, like I would go to the Asian grocery store and they all already had masks and plexiglass and everything, like way before anybody else. And I was like, this is the spot to shop. This is the safest spot. Like, and also nobody was going there because everyone was racist. And they're like, oh, Chinese virus, I'm not going to H Mart. I'm just like, oh my God, because everyone's fucking terrible. But anyway, so the biggest risk I think I made in my life to be an artist was basically deciding that being, quote unquote, normal or achieving, what are considered like milestones of success in your life were not important to me. I decided very early on that I didn't care about getting married. I didn't care about buying a house or having children. In fact, I was very sure from a very young age that I did not want to have biological children, but I very much have always wanted to adopt children. My two best friends growing up were adopted. So I've always wanted to adopt a child. But, that would be something that you plan for, you're like sure. Really ready when you adopt a kid. And, I've never really had the desire to have a biological child. So I was lucky in that. And I know a lot of people, you can't help it. You want to do it, and it's natural. You're programmed to do it. It's totally understandable. I don't shade anybody for doing it. It just wasn't something that I wanted. And basically, I realized, I think, my whole life growing up, I was, my dad was really, really hard on me to be successful. And he, had really high expectations of me. I tested really well from a young age. He was always trying to get me pushed ahead in school to skip grades. And, the teachers wouldn't let me because I wasn't, I was a kid. I wasn't, you shouldn't, I think skipping grades is terrible. I think it does, you put a little kid, like, why is a 16-year-old in college? That's a bad idea.
I agree.
Like, he's going to get drunk at a frat party and get alcohol poisoning and maybe die,
Right.
But anyway, I didn't get skipped ahead luckily and was able to, attempt to age naturally in school outside of my, dysfunctional home life. But, I was put under a lot of pressure to be academically perfect, essentially. And I was told basically from a young age, there's not going to be any money for you for college. If you want to go to college, you have to figure it out yourself. My suggestion is that you get really good at sports and really good at school and really good at all the extracurriculars and just be the perfect college candidate. And then maybe you can get a scholarship. And so that was my message from like day one, the earliest thing I can remember about being, needing to do stuff right. And so, I busted my butt all through, elementary, middle school, and then I got to high school and I just started to realize that adults were all miserable. And like, I started to realize that maybe the whole thing, like go to college, get a job, get married, have a kid, be a productive member of society. And I was like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. I was like, that looks like it sucks. And all those people are sad and mad and, hate their kids and hate their wife, or that's what it felt like to me in the situation I was in. And, I was like, I don't want to be one of these people. Like, I want to fucking do my own thing and, figure it out. And like, maybe, I was definitely always one of those people that fantasized about being able to somehow live without having to work, like, even like, live in a van down by the river, like whatever, to like exist outside of like these insane capitalist society demands of like constant productivity and constant, work. And like, you're never working hard enough. And if you even take a break to rest, you're being lazy, like, how dare you, it's like, it's so funny because you get all of these messages from, the world that's like, if you don't have enough money, it's your own fault and you just need to work harder and do better. And then you'll be successful. And if you're not successful, it must be something you're doing wrong because it's certainly not the system, Right. And just made to carry all this guilt on yourself for your lack of, financial stability or career success when there's really like every obstacle in the world in front of you. If you weren't born into, money or at least upper, middle or upper middle class where you have money, you don't have to worry about paying for college. That even if your parents didn't save, they'll be able to take out loans for you and like, or at least would co-sign on your loans. Like I had no co-signer. I had no, I couldn't get anything. So, and that was also where it hit home for me when I realized that like the normal option really isn't available to me because I don't have the financial resources. And even though I'm really smart, I still can't get enough of a scholarship to go for free. And there even like I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for one semester. That's my one semester art school. I got a 50% scholarship there. And even with a 50% scholarship, there was still $9,000 for a semester. Including room and board, which I guess now is not that bad. But like at the time I was like, I don't have $9,000. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I like talked my grandparents and, my artist grandma into co-signing for that one semester. And basically I got straight A's at the time of my life and got back. And my grandma was like, I'm really sorry, but our accountant says we can't co-sign on any more loans. It's like a financial risk for us because we're nearing our end of life. And like, if you can't pay these loans back and we're responsible, and we're like dying in a nursing home, like, we can't have that like on our heads or something like that. And I was just like,
wow,
right. I guess I'm not going back to art school. And then I, went to Towson University for a little while and hated it and dropped out. But it's just like one of those things where it's like, I just realized that like the regular way was never going to work for me because I wasn't rich enough and I would never be rich enough to be able to afford to go to like regular college. I should have gone to community college, but, I was educated in a very unfortunate time in the early 2000s where like they were really pushing that liberal arts 4-year college is the only way to be a real adult situation for some reason. And it was just like, if you don't go to a 4-year liberal arts school, you aren't like a cultured, educated person. And like everyone should go to that and blah, 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 which was like the biggest fucking scam. Oh my God. Everyone I know that's got a 4-year liberal arts degree is like, wishes they're like in $100,000 of debt and they like work at an ad agency and they hate their fucking life.
It's
like,
it's trash. It's garbage. And I think like very, very similar in listening, what you were saying, like I had my whole like time in being in college and, doing all of that, finished, and did the whole business degree because I had this pie in the sky idea. I'll just go to an art school and just be this. And I was like, I think about like maybe junior year in high school. I was like, yeah, I can do both. I was like, I think I have enough talent specifically in the what I want to do, and I don't like following rules. So I'll pick something that's kind of rigid that I can try to split, make money in this area, and sell part of my soul. And then the other part of the day is just like, all right, now it's time for me. I need to fund this, and then now the rest of the time is for me. And I didn't really get to that balance until, years later, like to your thing about like financial stability. Like I did the whole rat race and I get burned out after 2 years. And I just said, look, I need to be a podcaster. I need to start recording stuff. I need to get this shit out of me. And I bought a bunch of audio equipment from Best Buy and I learned everything that I could as a podcaster. And I know how to do every component of the shit. And that was the balance for me. That was the thing for me. It's just like, all right, me going to the job is now funding this creative endeavor. And I can do a lot more at this job. I could chase that brass ring or what have you in the different jobs I've had. But this is serving a purpose. And this is serving the purpose of funding me creatively and knowing that I can kind of do both. And sometimes the balance gets a little out of whack, but it's something that I think that I'm uniquely equipped to do. But we'll be wrapping up like right now, actually. And this has been great. So here's a great opportunity. I like to call this segment a shameless plug. So tell me where they can, tell me where we can find your stuff, where we can buy stuff from you. I will be buying something from you after all of this is done. But yes, hit us up with your socials and all of that good stuff.
Okay, cool. So my main account is my drag persona, Johnny Gash, who is also kind of me. I go by SJ or Johnny. Feel free to call me either. Also, they, him pronoun. And so that account is on Instagram. It's Johnny_Gash_. And that's where I sell like my t-shirts and other stuff like that and my portraits and other art. And then my cocktail account is SJ HBIC. And that stands for SJ's Herbal Bottled Infused Cocktails. Or, it can stand for many things. And, but anyway, that's my Instagram. And basically, we sell like the recipe of the cocktail. And it's like, you're not paying for the drink, you're paying for the service. And the service of making the cocktail, and it's like a tip. And then the cocktail is like the gift. So basically, I have all the cocktails that I've made so far on the page. You can pick one of those. I have different size options. I also have spirit-free cocktails and cocktails that just have CBD and other stuff for people that don't drink alcohol. I can make low-acid stuff. Like any dietary restrictions, I can make you some custom, no worries. And we do delivery and pickup in the Baltimore area. And everything's homemade from scratch. That's
delightful. I was thinking of coming up with a persona for myself, Bob Gnarly, but I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know.
I love that.
Well, I'm going to hit you after this, but I at least want to thank you for coming on. This has been a treat, very informative, and it was good to just talk art with you.
Hell yeah.
So, thank everyone for listening. This has been Rob Lee for SJ, Johnny Gash, all of this. This has been Getting to the Truth in This Art. And until next time, art's all throughout Baltimore. You just have to look for it.